What is that?
Something is out there.
It came after me, man!
What came after you?
Start of the movie, a young teen smashes his way out through a house window. He scrambles up from his fall, dropping a gun, and as he runs off, a witch-like character comes out of the house, picks up a shattered piece of glass with a smear of the boy's blood on it, and licks the shard clean. Meanwhile, the boy examines the packet he retrieved from the house, places it in his bag, and realizes his gun is missing. Suddenly, he hears the monster laughing. Panicked, he rushes toward his bicycle, but the monster appears behind him, and the scene ends abruptly. Later that night, a police officer finds the boy and recognizes him as Ronnie Harlow. In the summer of 1997, Martha's Vineyard is lively with vacationers enjoying sunny days on its sandy beaches. We are then introduced to Noah and his mother, Abby. Noah notices an older woman and tells his mother it's her new arrival. As he departs, he greets the woman, and Abby hurries over to the woman, who remarks that Noah seems like a delightful young man. Abby introduces herself and confirms that the woman must be Miss Halverson. Later, Edgar informs Noah that he cannot publish his column in his newspaper. Noah counters that Miss Ashby claimed she saw a man peeking through her bedroom window, to which Edgar asks, "What if I told you this is the same Miss Ashby who goes to the station every week to file a missing persons report for her husband Walter, who has been dead for 8 years?" Noah mentions size 11 men's footprints outside her window, but Edgar dismisses it, calling it a waste of time. He explains he moved to Martha's Vineyard for its reputation as America's safest summer spot, and says readers aren't interested in minor offenses. Recognizing Noah's ambition to follow his father's legacy, Edgar encourages him to find a more compelling story. Next, Noah, Eugene, Sammy, and Ben come across Carruthers' property. Ben mentions hearing rumors about Carruthers at his parents' dinner parties, while others believe he's in witness protection. Noah adds that in the summer of '65, Carruthers' wife and kids mysteriously disappeared, and while no one could prove Carruthers was involved, he bets their bodies are buried on the property. He believes there's a story behind the fence that could get his article published in the Gazette, possibly even make national news if he can prove Carruthers' guilt. Undeterred, Noah attempts to climb the fence, but the others stop him. Sammy, however, finds a loose thread, pulls it to open the gate, and they all rush inside. While hiding behind a boat, the group sees Gene Carruthers digging in his yard. After a while, when Gene leaves, they sneak into his barn despite Eugene's worries about getting arrested for trespassing. Suddenly, Noah hears a noise and signals for everyone to hide. Gene enters, grabs a box, and starts cutting something, causing Eugene nearly sneezes. But the others stop him just in time, and Gene eventually walks away. Noah cautiously gets up to confirm that Gene is gone, and the coast is clear, but to his horror, he finds him standing right next to them. Panic sets in, and the group flees in terror. But once outside, Noah realizes he left his backpack in the barn, so he has to go back, but Ben urges him to forget about it, and insists they leave immediately. That evening, Ben meets Ellie, and someone watches the two from a distance. They decide to go for a late-night swim in the ocean, and as they come out, an old woman warns them that it's dangerous for children to be in the ocean so late at night. Her sudden appearance unsettles them, and as they watch her climb up the pier, Ben nervously suggests they should leave. However, before they can act, the old woman suddenly jumps into the water, and before they can understand what's happening, she drags Ellie under. Moments later, Ellie resurfaces, gasping, and the two frantically try to escape. However, the woman pulls Ben deep into the water this time. A few tense moments pass, and a strange light appears beneath Ellie in the water, and seizing the opportunity, she escapes. The next morning, Noah discovers his backpack outside his house. Curious and cautious, he checks inside and finds a book with Jean's name written in it. Noah heads to Ben's house and sees a police officer speaking with Ben's mother, reassuring her that Ben will be fine. She asks if Ben said anything about what happened, to which the officer replies that he believes Ben is experiencing some form of PTSD and that, for now, time is the best medicine. Noah rushes to Ben, exclaiming that he's got the whole island in a frenzy. However, Ben stays silent, his expression distant and unreadable. Noah visits Ellie and asks her what happened the previous night. She tells him there was someone else out there with them. As Noah sits down beside her, Ellie explains that an old woman jumped into the water, but whatever pulled him under was something different. She describes seeing a flash of light and admits she didn't know what to do, so she just swam. Noah reassures her, saying she didn't do anything wrong, to which she asks if he believes her. And when he says he does, Ellie confesses that she can still hear the old woman's cackling every time she closes her eyes, and it sounded like a witch. Noah insists they need to tell the police, to which Ellie says she already tried, but they didn't believe her, and neither did her mom or dad. Noah goes to the spot where the incident happened and finds a black scarf there, and when he turns around, he sees Miss Halverson standing there, waving at him. Noah visits Jean to apologize for the other day and asks how he knew where he lived. Jean explains it wasn't hard to figure out since he had written his initials on his pack, warning him to be more careful about where he puts his name. Jean tells him to leave, but Noah says he and his friends thought he might have been digging up a body, to which Jean asks if he would like to fit right in with the rest of his body of work. Noah then asks if Jean has read his book, to which he replies he has. At that moment, a message comes through on Jean's radio, and hearing it, Noah asks if he's a cop or something, to which Jean says, "Not anymore." Noah recounts Ben's incident, insisting a witch was behind it. But when Jean asks if he saw the witch, Noah admits a girl told him about it. Noah pleads for Jean to talk to his friend, but Jean refuses, saying he's retired. When Noah returns home, Abby asks him to leave the food outside Miss Halverson's room, as she requested not to be disturbed. Noah complies and leaves the food at her door, but as he walks away, he hears her chanting. Curious, he returns and tries to peek inside using a bread knife, but gets startled to find her staring back at him and prompting him to flee. Meanwhile, Jean watches an old video of his wife and child, and when he switches channels, a news story about Ben catches his attention. The next day, during a game, Jean advises Noah to let his hips lead his hands, explaining that's where power comes from. Noah asks, "So you're a cop and a hitting coach now?" To which Jean replies, "I'll talk to that friend of yours." And when Noah asks if he believes him, Jean says, "I didn't say that." Noah brings Jean to see Ben, but Ben remains silent when Jean tries to talk to him. Jean asks if Ben smokes weed, and Noah replies, "No." Jean then checks on Ben and asks what happened, to which Ben explains he was swimming in the dark and tried to return to shore, but the water kept pulling him. Noah points out that's not what Ellie said, and when Jean asks Ben how he got back, Ben recalls keeping his head above water until a bright flash left him washed up on the beach. Jean reassures Ben he'll be fine and begins to leave, and when Noah questions him, Jean insists this isn't serious, saying if Ben had been pulled under with force, there would be marks or bruises, and concludes there's no such thing as witches. Later, Noah's sister Lily sees him arguing with Abby and tells Miss Halverson she doesn't like it when they fight. Miss Halverson shares that as a child, she would imagine happy thoughts when her family argued and suggests the girl do the same, focusing on things she loves. Meanwhile, Abby tells Noah to stop taking his frustrations out on her, to which he snaps back, suggesting she stop pretending she wants to be there any more than he does. Just then, they notice Lily on the stairs, and when Noah asks what she's doing, she replies, thinking happy thoughts. Later, Noah tells his friends that Ben came home, but he's not the same, describing him as a zombie from Night of the Living Dead. He suggests that if it was a witch, she took something from him. Sammy accuses Noah of exaggerating to get a big article for the paper, while Eugene insists witches aren't real. Sammy adds that since Noah lost his dad, he's been obsessed with finding evil on the island, even though there's none to be found. Noah says if they don't believe him, that's fine, but something is out there, and he warns that if they do nothing, kids, including them, are going to get hurt. That evening, a girl leads Kevin into the woods, but it's revealed she's actually a witch. She ventures deeper into the forest, and as Kevin follows, a bright light flashes from behind the bushes, followed by an explosion. The next morning, Noah sees news of the explosion on the TV and notices that Kevin's condition is now just like Ben's. He then gets a call from Jean, who tells him to meet at the docks in an hour. And when Noah asks where they're going, Jean replies, "No Man's Land." At No Man's Land, Jean notices 2 sets of footprints and tells Noah to stay back, insisting it's best if he goes in alone. Jean steps deeper into the woods, but Noah comes there, saying he didn't come all this way to sit by the fence. Jean continues his investigation and eventually notices the footprints change. He says, "Kevin ran off this way." Following the trail, he reaches the spot where Kevin stopped and tells Noah, "Whoever did the chasing ran off this way." As he examines the area, Jean suddenly falls into a crater, possibly caused by the explosion. While Jean gets up from the crater, Noah finds a piece of cloth and mentions that he's seen this material before at the jumping bridge. Noah then discovers a broom and fits it onto a stick Jean is holding. Later, Noah tells his friends there's a witch on the island. He shows them his research, explaining that witches need to feed on children to survive and replenish their powers, and if they don't, they can weaken and even die. He adds that witches can change their forms to blend in with normal people and use spells to control things with their minds. Later, Noah introduces his friends to Jean, a retired detective, and explains that they know the witch lured Kevin into the woods, just like she did with Ben, but this time she accidentally triggered an explosion. Eugene asks if she's dead, but Jean says there was no blood or body, so he's unsure. Noah remarks, "That's not how you kill a witch." And Eugene mentions in a grim tale, "A man used silver buttons as bullets to kill a witch." Sammy says, "Silver bullets are for werewolves," and Eugene replies, "They kill monsters." Jean laughs, and Noah asks if he doesn't believe in monsters, to which Jean replies that he believes in real monsters, having chased them his whole life, but what Noah's talking about is just a fairy tale. Eugene adds that witches don't eat kids and turn them into brain-dead zombies, only to send them home in time for supper. Noah asks, "What if this witch is different?" and urges Jean to share what he told him. Jean explains, "Let's say the suspect used to live in a town or outskirts and abducted children over time, but after a few kids go missing, people start to notice. And like all serial predators, she'd move on to the next place, recycling her old behaviors." Eugene asks, "So how do we find her?" To which Noah replies, "Kevin followed her into the woods willingly, but for that to happen, she must have made him feel safe. She could have posed as a friend, or even an old lady, because that's how Ellie said she was when she jumped off the bridge and came after Ben." Gene says he'll call an old buddy at the bureau for help, and tells them to stay alert. That evening, while Miss Halverson isn't in her room, Noah sneaks in to investigate and finds a notebook with the list of names and birth dates of many children. In another drawer, he finds some drawings of his sister, but suddenly, Miss Halverson tries to open the door, prompting Noah to quickly hide in a closet. Once she enters the room, Noah notices his research diary has been left outside, which scares him, but after a tense moment, Miss Halverson leaves the room again. The next day, Noah tells his friends that everything started as soon as Miss Halverson arrived for the summer. He explains that she was at the jumping bridge the day after Ben was taken, and he once heard her chanting a strange chant in her bedroom. He adds that she comes and goes at all hours, and whenever she returns, she doesn't want to be disturbed. Sammy asks why he asked her to bring her mom's camcorder, and Noah replies that he plans to follow her and wait for her to make a move, and when she does, they'll have proof this time. They follow Miss Halverson to the children's theater, where Noah sees her approaching a boy, prompting him to rush forward and push her away. His friends then come there, and Eugene throws holy water on her, but nothing happens. Noah then tells everyone to stay away from her, saying she's a witch, but Miss Halverson denies it, claiming she's a children's author and is there to give a reading. Noah questions her about the kids' drawings, and she explains their references, and when Noah brings up the list of names and her chanting in foreign tongues, she responds, "I pray in Latin." Later, as Miss Halverson prepares to leave, Abby asks her to reconsider, to which Miss Halverson explains she chose the house for its beauty and only wanted respect and privacy while working on her book. Abby apologizes, but Miss Halverson asks her to return the prepaid balance for the rest of the summer. After Miss Halverson leaves, Noah apologizes to Abby, but she tells him to get out of her sight. Noah confides in Jean, who warns that a false accusation can ruin someone's reputation. Noah agrees, adding it could wreck his mom's summer business. He admits he hates disappointing her, especially since his dad passed a few years ago. Noah explains his dad was a journalist who traveled the world, sharing stories of his adventures. He recalls eagerly waiting for his dad to return home, but on his last assignment, an accident kept him from coming back. Noah reminisces about his dad clearing monsters from his room with a golf club before bed. Jean relates, saying he did the same for his son with a baseball bat. When Noah asks how old his son would be, Jean replies, 40 this October, and shares a painful memory. When his son was 5, a man on a motorcycle abducted him through the car window, while Jean was changing a blown tire. Jean tried to chase the man on 3 wheels but crashed into a tree, and that was the last time he saw his boy. Jean explains how the loss destroyed his marriage and consumed the next 30 years of his life as he chased dead ends, hoping his son might someday knock on his door. Noah, standing up, asks what all this is about, to which Jean reveals he uses detective work to track missing kids, marking their cases on a map to find patterns. Noah pins a spot on the map, saying, Ben isn't missing, but he's lost all the same. Jean agrees, noting something strange is happening and plans to discuss a potential predator in town with the chief in the morning. Jean discusses the incidents with Edgar and Chief Hartley, who dismiss his concerns as overreactions, claiming such events happen every summer. Jean counters, presenting evidence like strange prints in no man's land, identical fabric found at both sites, and victims with vacant looks. Edgar scoffs, saying Jean doesn't know what he's talking about, to which Jean insists he's hearing unusual reports from parents about kids disappearing briefly, telling Edgar that he has a responsibility to speak the truth. Edgar warns Jean not to tell him how to run his paper, prompting Hartley to step in to diffuse the tension, asking Jean who are they looking for? Noah interrupts, declaring it's a witch and citing the broom they found. He claims she's feeding on souls, casting spells, and returning victims to their families. Edgar laughs at this, and Jean says the kid don't know what he is talking about, which upsets Noah and he runs away from there. Edgar then tells Jean that Noah frequently brings wild theories to the Gazette and warns it would be a shame if such ideas were mistaken for truth. Jean retorts that Edgar wields great power on the island by deciding what to publish, and it's fine if he don't want to want people, but it's on him. Noah runs into his friends and tells them he needs to talk, but Eugene says he can't hang out because his mom thinks he is a bad influence, and Sammy adds she nearly got grounded for the rest of the summer because of him. Noah insists they know what's out there, but Sammy disagrees, saying none of them really do, and warns him to stop before someone gets hurt. Upset by this, Noah tells them to enjoy their summer and leaves. Later, Noah spots a bicycle abandoned by the roadside, and when he checks a nearby bag, he realizes it belongs to Eugene. He rushes into the woods, calling for Eugene, where he notices movement behind a tree and gets a bit scared. He cautiously moves closer, and to his shock, he finds Eugene there, trembling in fear, and tells Noah that it came after me. Noah asks, "What came after you?" To which Eugene points to a figure who says, "Why don't you stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong?" Terrified, Noah and Eugene bolt from the woods, finally emerging to safety. Catching his breath, Eugene mutters, "The witch is real," and shoves Noah away, shouting, "Stay away from me! I'm done with this," and storms off. After Ben leaves, Noah notices red algae on his shoes. Later, on his way home, Noah notices a car chasing him. Panicked, he pedals his bike as fast as he can and manages to reach Gene's house and tells him about the car. Gene rushes outside to check but returns shortly, saying there's no car out there. Gene asks if he is okay, but Noah snaps, accusing him of making him look like a stupid kid at the diner. Gene apologizes, explaining it wasn't personal and that those guys wouldn't have believed him. When Noah asks if Gene believes him, Gene says he does and admits there's something out there. He tells Noah he'll need his help and that, from now on, it's just the two of them. He then shows Noah his research, noting that several New England towns report clusters of missing children, but a New Hampshire town has the most unusual recent disappearances, and this morning, he learned Ronnie Harlow, previously missing, was found wandering in the woods. Noah speculates, what if Charlie Morgan was her last victim the old way? Maybe she's changing, feeding on pieces of their souls. and Ronnie Harlow might be the first she's using this new method on. Jean admits he's unsure, but observes Ronnie is the first child to disappear and return with a strange, vacant look. He plans to drive to New Hampshire tomorrow to speak with Ronnie's parents. When Noah gets home, Abby tells him she wants to show him something, recalling how his father used to say he cared more about the people in the story than the story itself. She admits he might think she's unsupportive of his writing because of what happened to his dad. She explains she loved his father deeply, and every time he left, it felt like a piece of her heart went with him, and she feels the same way every time Noah leaves the house. Noah asks, "Is this Dad's stuff?" To which Abby nods and says, "Now it's yours, and she thought it might mean something to you." That night, eerie chanting echoes through Jean's investigation room as the pins on the map begin falling off on their own. When Jean steps out, he sees bubbles floating in the air and a video of his wife and son playing on the TV. Frozen in shock, Jean watches as his son turns and asks, "Why did you let him take me?" The boy moves closer to the screen, his voice trembling. "You let the monsters get me." And as this happens, we see the car outside his house. Meanwhile, Noah is sleeping in his room when suddenly a light bulb bursts and a display fish eerily says, "I was born to haunt you." Terrified by the paranormal activity, Noah watches in fear as the lights flicker and go out, and then the last bulb above him bursts, plunging the room into complete darkness. Terrified, Noah quickly turns on an emergency lamp, and to his shock, he sees his typewriter typing a message on its own, and the words form a chilling note from the witch. The next morning, Jean visits Ronnie and asks him what happened to him, but Ronnie remains silent, fixated on the opera playing on the TV. Jean scans the room. He notices an envelope in Ronnie's bag. Inside, he finds several photos and a key. Jean then discovers a small box, opens it with the key, and finds a witch's map, some newspaper clippings, and silver bullets inside. As Jean is driving back home, a sudden thought crosses his mind, and he immediately pulls over. He grabs the map from the envelope and examines it closely, then goes through the photos, and to his shock, he realizes that a man appears in several of them, connecting them all. Meanwhile, Noah is in the middle of a game when he notices red algae on the umpire's shoes. He intentionally avoids hitting the ball, and when the umpire calls a strike, Noah sees a burn mark on his hand, sending a wave of fear through him. After the game, Noah tells his friends that he knows who the witch is. Sammy urges him to get help and tells Eugene to come with her, but Eugene stays frozen in place. Noah insists he's serious, and Sammy asks, "Who is she then?" To which Noah replies, "It's not a she," and points to the umpire in the photo. He explains that the umpire has the same burn on his arm from the explosion and the red algae-stained shoes. Eugene says he knows where the umpire lives, and they all set out to find him. They arrive at the umpire's house, and Noah spots the same car that had chased him earlier. Undeterred, they sneak inside, recording everything on Sammy's camcorder, and Noah suggests they split up to search the place. While looking around, Noah discovers a set of photos of Ronnie, Kevin, Ben, and even himself, and just as he shows the photos to his friends, the umpire suddenly knocks them unconscious. When the group regains consciousness, they find themselves tied up as the umpire takes their measurements. He then steps outside, returning with 2 knives in hand, sending a wave of fear through all 3 of them. The umpire casually mentions he's been on a diet for months, and it hasn't been pleasant. As he moves closer, he warns them that there won't be a fairy tale ending for them. He explains that they've jeopardized his retirement plan, and it's not easy for an old witch like him. He tells them that he's been eating children for years, moving from town to town, hiding deep in the woods, but this town offers an endless supply of children each summer, and all it takes is a little self-control. He adds that drinking a child's youth doesn't fully satisfy his cravings, but perhaps a few little snacks will. The witch then chooses Noah as his first victim and transforms into her true form. She drags Noah away, and in a desperate move, Noah hits a table, causing a lighter to fall, and Noah kicks the lighter toward his friends. Using the lighter, they free themselves, and Eugene pushes it away, accidentally setting the curtain on fire. Sammy strikes the witch to save Noah, giving Eugene time to free him. The witch retaliates by throwing Sammy aside, but Noah and Eugene quickly hurl hot water at the witch and escape in the chaos. The witch pursues them, but Jean shoots her, knocking her down. Just as they think she's defeated, the witch gets up, prompting Jean to load a silver bullet into his gun. And as the witch approaches, Jean shoots her again. Although they initially believe the bullet has worked, the witch suddenly runs off, and Jean tells Noah to leave before he goes after the witch. Noah refuses to listen to Jean and follows him to help. And after a while, the witch throws Jean out of a dark corner. She then advances on Noah, and when he tries to reach for the gun, she pounces on him and tosses the weapon away. Grabbing him by the throat, she lifts him into the air and begins sucking his soul. But just as all seems lost, Jean shoots the witch, causing her to release Noah. As she moves toward Jean again, he fires more shots, forcing her to fall to her knees. Jean then approaches her, places the gun on her forehead, and fires the final shot, which causes the souls of the children trapped by the witch to be freed and returned to them. Witch dies, and Jean tells Noah they need to leave before they find out she has a sister. The next day, Noah presents his article about Jean to Edgar, who is impressed with his work. Afterward, Noah visits Jean and asks for his thoughts, and Jean tells him that he's a hell of a man and wishes he could have known him. He thanks Noah and mentions that some of the kids are starting to wake up, and when Noah says Ben is still different, Jean advises him to be patient. Noah then returns Jean's book, but Jean insists he keep it, calling it a gift. He tells Noah that when he first read the book, he realized that writers could be heroes too. The scene shifts to the kids at the game, with Ben in the hitting position. Initially still lost, he misses the first 2 pitches, but as the game progresses, something changes. Ben's soul returns to him, and he wakes up, his clarity restored. He sets his foot firmly on the ground, grips the bat tightly, and with newfound strength, he swings and hits the ball hard. The crowd erupts into cheers as Ben, now fully present, celebrates his victory. The final scene shows Jean visiting his wife, a moment filled with hope and anticipation. He approaches her, taking a deep breath, and the movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.